Hey, really glad you joined in. And today I thought I'd talk about how I got over an abusive ex. And the reason I bring it up is because I talk with more than a handful of people that are holding on to the rage and the anger and the victimhood. And I'm really glad I could surrender and see the beauty in moving through it to get to real freedom. Because the abusive experience or the abusive ex and the abuse specifically, that's not my identity. That's not who I am. And even though I have shame and guilt around the circumstance or the experience, that's not who I am as an individual. And it's really important to understand the abuse is not my identity. So that was the first step. And then I had to separate from the circumstance, regardless of how unjust I felt it was. And I had to rise out of that victim role, even though I felt I had the right. And maybe I did. And certainly I did lay in that victim role for a while because that's what I needed to do to transform it ultimately. But to understand that staying in that role of victim is perpetuating the cycle of abuse once again. And once I could rise and say, you know what, I'm not going to be the perpetrator's victim anymore. I'm not going to let that experience, that memory, that ex hold me in that place. I'm going to rise above it. And so I chose to address the abuse head on. And I did have to give myself a wide berth. And for me, it did take professional help most of the time to walk through the experiences and really face it. And then I had to ultimately come to a place where I could embrace the learning. So understand what this abusive ex or this abusive experience or this abusive circumstance was delivering to my doorstep to teach me something. There had to be something in this that I could learn. And most often it was to draw boundaries and not repeat the experience again. But even so, what a great gift, because that propelled me forward to live more freely, to really connect with who I truly am as a human being, and then to pass this along to the next person that's still suffering in the scenario, whether they're there or not. I know many people, a decade later, are still angry and victimized by the abusive circumstance and still trying to make the perpetrator pay, make them accountable. And it just doesn't work. It's like a friend of mine says, it's like eating the rat poison and expecting the other person to die. And the sooner I learn to surrender and to walk through the abuse, yes, express it. Yes, a lot of it is really unfair and really unjust on the surface, but underneath it all, there's some nugget, some hidden jewel that I've been able to take away and live more freely. And I invite you to. And then ultimately, and sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, I was able to get to a point of forgiveness for the ex, for the experience, for the toxic system. Get to forgiveness. because we're all here in this earthly mess doing the best we can. And for those around me, my ex, my toxic family members, they all were victims of horrific abuse. And ultimately, when I experienced the freedom of that forgiveness, I really saw the gift in that, what I was gaining, what I was receiving, and that I could walk more comfortably in my being, be a better service, receive more abundance, be clearer on who I am and my mission, be clearer on my boundaries, be clearer on self-care. All of that started to come in. And so I hope that this has been helpful. Sometimes it's not always popular. And there's all sorts of levels to this, but truly moving through these steps, knowing that abuse is not my identity, rising from the point of victim, regardless of circumstance, embracing the jewel, the lesson, the learning within it, and then ultimately finding forgiveness has been a pivotal, incredible way of finding soul evolution. There's free resources on my website, susangold.us. If this video is helpful, like, share, or subscribe. Thanks for everybody's subscriptions now and for your comments. And do take care, because we are in this together.